Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Vimal, and I'll be the moderator for the session. Now, we are delighted to have Mr. Arnav Patel as a speaker for the webinar. And about him is a chatbot building expert who is currently working for TAS. Now, TAS is a leading leaders in the chatbot platform, and they have like a unique approach which they have like each customer. They follow this hands-on approach to every customer's chatbot. So what they do is like every time, whenever the customer signs up, and from the signs up time, whenever customer creates a chatbot, they kind of help the customer to get the most value out of the chatbot. Okay, so that's what TAS do, and it's kind of a unique how things, and that's what it's kind of the leaders in creating, because they have that customer service support which they provide, and hands-on experience which the customer gets. So that's what is quite amazing. Now about Arnav, so he is an expert, as I told, like he's a chatbot building expert, and he also helps the marketer to get most out of their marketing campaigns by creating the content about the conversion rate marketing. He's built over 60 plus chatbots which have really helped the businesses boost their PPC conversion rates. He currently focuses on like how conventional texts, which is the chatbots, the live chat, etc., how they can be used to build a world best in class online customer service, and how the website visitors, how they can be converted into leads. So yes, and we do have like an interesting topic for today, which is how chatbots are changing the way of the businesses, like future businesses. So yeah, over to you, Arnav. Yep.
Hey, Vimal, thanks for the intro. I really appreciate it when people notice the hands-on approach that we take, because we often talk about it in our internal meetings where, we talk about how what separates us from other chatbot platforms, or we'd like to think separates us from other chatbot platforms, is the fact that we're very success-driven in that we really want to ensure that everyone who subscribes for our product gets the most out of it and actually sees some value out of it. And that's really what gets us out of bed every morning. Now, moving on to the actual topic for today, I'm going to pull up my slides over here really quick. Yep, I prepared some slides for you guys. I'm a big slide guy. I love using slides for pretty much everything. So hopefully the slides are entertaining for you. I also find that Google Slides is exceedingly slow when I'm screen sharing from Zoom. But yeah, welcome everyone to this webinar about how you can build experiences to increase your ROI. And as Vimal said, the method that we're particularly going to be talking about today is how you can use chatbots in particular to increase your landing page ROI. Now, Vimal already spoke a little bit about who we are at TARS. To give you just another few sentences, we've been around since 2016, and in that time we've helped marketers boost their conversion rates using conversational tech. And conversational tech is just a fancy way of saying chatbots, and I'll explain what I mean by this and what it actually means to help someone boost their conversion rate using conversational tech. But that's the entire purpose of this webinar today. So as we go over the content for the next hour or so, you'll get a good sense of what we mean by this. Now, a good place to start for this webinar, I think, is looking at this diagram over here. This diagram sort of captures the journey of every single customer across industries for any marketing journey. Every customer goes through these three stages. And you'll notice that I have the Lead Squared logo on the bottom right. I actually got this from a webinar that we did with them, so shout out to them. I want to give credit where credit is due. I got this idea from them for this slide. But basically, every single marketing process, every single buyer journey involves customers going through these three stages of the buyer journey. And the role of any marketing or sales team is to ensure that as many people as possible convert from being a visitor into a lead. And then after that, get nurtured from being a lead into a customer that that pays you, obviously. Now, we tend to think about this in terms of as a funnel in marketing and sales. But actually, I was speaking to someone recently, and funnel is not the ideal metaphor to use for a process like this, because in a funnel, you pour something in the top and it flows down automatically. It's pretty simple. The process of getting someone from being a visitor to a customer is actually fraught with obstacles. Along the way, there are several cracks through which people fall out of the journey and they go cold. And that's your time, effort, and money wasted as a marketer to bring them to your pages, to bring them to your company. And what we are going to be focusing on today is the first part of this journey over here. What we are going to be focusing on is how you can get as many people as possible from the visitor stage of this journey to the lead stage of this journey without breaking the bank. Because obviously you can throw as much money as you want at a problem, and eventually, I mean, maybe not in all cases it goes away, but hopefully it goes away. But we wanted to do it in a cost-effective way. And this is really where your landing pages are functioning. The topic of today is increasing landing page ROI. The purpose of your landing page is to convert visitors into leads. So this is the part of the journey that we are focusing on. And the way I've divided it up for today, I'm keeping it super simple. I want to save as much time as possible for the last section of this webinar, which is the discussion. I'm just going to have two sections. In the first section, we are going to talk about the problem with landing pages. So what is the problem that we are actually trying to fix? Because we can't really fix something, we can't really increase the ROI of something if we don't know what it is that we have to fix. And then in the second section, we are going to talk about the solution. And in the parentheses and from our conversation earlier, you have a bit of a sneak peek and you know that we're primarily going to be talking about chatbots. So let's jump right in. The problem with landing pages, I mean, I think a good place to start for this section in particular is to think a little bit about how we got to where we are today, where we are so reliant on landing pages to do all the heavy lifting in the first part of our buyer journey. Now, way back, before digital marketing was a thing, it seems like the ancient times today, people used to go into physical stores and offices to buy things, and we used to maybe at max call businesses to buy things. With a few exceptions, if you wanted to buy a product or a service, there was some form of human interaction involved in the process. You were speaking to someone, whether you wanted to open a bank account or whether you wanted to buy a new rug. You were going to speak to someone somewhere along the way. Now, we all know what happened next. Smartphones came on the scene, internet adoption saw a massive explosion, and businesses started to move online. And as businesses started to move online, as they started to gain a digital presence and create these digital storefronts for themselves in landing pages and websites, we saw a change in the way buying and selling happened. Instead of interacting with another person to buy or sell, to buy a product, you had to do it yourself as a buyer. The entire process of buying something became self-serve. You'd land on the page, you'd read through it, you'd fill out a form if it was lead gen, or you'd make a purchase if it was something like e-commerce. Now, this was ideal. This was an ideal change for a lot of people. I mean, from the perspective of of a buyer as well as a business, it makes a lot of sense to do things in a digital manner. From a buyer's perspective, it's extremely comfortable. I mean, I'm just like the rest of you. I love sitting on my couch watching Netflix and buying things online while I'm sitting there. It's extremely convenient. I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to interact with anyone. It's great. And from a business's perspective, from a marketer's perspective, it's great for two reasons. One, you don't have to invest as much money into setting up a physical presence. It's extremely costly to set up a physical presence and hire the people to manage it. And two, it gives you unfathomable reach, because the friction associated with making a Google search or clicking on a Facebook ad or clicking on a display ad is considerably less than getting up off your couch and going to an actual store or giving someone a call and waiting on hold possibly. So it was ideal for everyone involved. And a lot of people tend to think that that is the end point of marketing. I mean, we've reached digital. This is how it is. This is how it always will be. We'll make minor optimizations on top of it, but pretty much we've reached the teleological endpoint, if you will, of marketing. But I'm here to tell you that that's actually not the case, because what we've seen in the last 5 years, or actually for that matter, what we've seen since the beginning of digital marketing, is that the tools that we use to capture leads, the tools that we use to convert people from visitors into customers in our marketing campaigns, landing pages, suffer from a conversion rate problem. If you look across industries, across channels, you see that conversion rates are exceedingly low. The average search conversion rate is about 3.75%. The average display conversion rate is 0.77%. This is across industries. And another way to think about this is that over 95% of the people who actually click onto your page, who you as marketers are paying to bring to your page, are leaving without sharing their contact details or without buying anything. And that, to me, at the very least, seems unacceptable. I mean, I think digital marketers, just because we've always seen conversion rates like this, think it's normal and don't really think much of it. But to me, it seems unacceptable that 95% of the time, effort, and money that we invest painstakingly to set up our marketing campaigns essentially gets wasted because we don't see any results from it. And of course, it doesn't really take a rocket scientist to figure out why this is the case, why landing pages don't convert. If you think about these sorts of processes that a buyer has to go through, a customer has to go through to navigate a landing page, they're not very pleasant. You're asking them to read through a bunch of text and fill out forms. That's essentially what every landing page consists of. You might add some nice colors, you might add some nice images, but at the end of the day, you're asking them to read through text and fill out forms. And if we boil it down even further and we take a closer look at what the underlying problems behind landing pages are, we can split it up into three buckets. The first is that landing pages are unintuitive. And what I mean by this is you can look up one product, open up 3 landing pages from it, which is exactly what I did to get these screenshots, and they all look completely different from each other. Now, this might seem like a minor issue, but it's not as minor as it seems, because I mean, we've all heard it before in digital marketing. You have about 7 seconds to convince someone to stay on your page. If every single landing page looks different, there's at least spending the first 2 seconds just figuring out where everything is, because the landing page they landed on, your landing page, doesn't look like every single other landing page they've seen, just because the branding is different, the positioning of the CTA is different, the heading, where the heading is different, etc., etc. So that's losing you valuable attention. It's losing you a scarce resource to play with as a marketer. The second issue is that landing pages are notoriously bad on mobile. Now, I think that the way we approach mobile optimization in the world of digital marketing, in the world of web development, is broken. I mean, the way we think about it is we have a desktop page like the one you're seeing on your right, and it's our job to take all of the elements from that page and squeeze it down so that it fits onto a mobile screen. And inevitably, what ends up happening is we're forced to remove all of the elements that make the landing page, all of the redeemable elements of the landing page, if you will. All of the graphical elements, all of the images, all have to go out the door because you're playing with a much smaller screen size. And as a result, you have to increase the font size, you have to make space for all of the text on the page, because that's how you convey information. You have to make space for the form on the page, and all of the good stuff goes away. And what you end up with is what you're seeing on your screen right now, essentially just a wall of text. There's not a single image in this. They've added some nice colors, but it's just a wall of text. You might as well throw a PDF at me or a brochure at me. And then the final, and in my opinion, the most egregious issue is that landing pages are unengaging. And what I mean by this is that they offer a one-way interaction. When a user clicks or a customer clicks on your ad, when they click on your link, however they land on your page, when they land on it, you load all the content over there, and then you as a business check out from the interaction. You say, here's all of the information that you need. Here's a form. When you're ready, read the information, fill out the form, and then we'll get back to you in a little bit. The entire onus of going through the interaction and getting any value out of it is put on the customer. And that sounds a lot more like homework than it does like a digital marketing experience in 2021. So all of these three issues that we just spoke about, these are the cracks that exist in this first part of buyer journey that we are trying to mitigate. So what's the solution? And we sort of gave you a sneak peek as to what the solution was before, but I think we're talking about chatbots today, obviously, but I think it warrants, I think I owe it to you guys to tell you a little bit about why chatbots work, what the mechanism is at play over here. Now, I know in the title of the webinar, we said reimagining the landing page. It's a catchy title. That's why I added it. But honestly, we don't need to reinvent the wheel to figure out how to fix landing pages. We can actually look back to our past, look back to the world before digital marketing to figure out how to address these problems that exist with landing pages. And a lot of businesses are already doing that. We are seeing a shift back towards the customer service mode of converting customers at the top of the funnel. So what I mean by that is that businesses are increasingly trying to have conversations right at the front of the funnel. Instead of just having conversations when you're nurturing your leads, we're talking about having conversations as soon as they click on the ad and land on your page. And this is evidenced by the fact that if you go to most websites today, whether it's a bank, whether it's an e-commerce store, they will have a chat widget in the bottom right corner, or they will at the very least have a call CTA somewhere on the page asking you to have a conversation with them. And this is a relatively new trend, at least in my experience. I don't remember seeing these many chat widgets even 3 years ago, but now they are absolutely everywhere. They've sort of made an emergence from the depths of your customer support page all the way to your homepage and your website, your main website. And if we compare how conversations as a whole stack up against landing pages, on the three fronts that we discussed earlier, intuitiveness, mobile optimization, and engagement, we see that they actually stack up pretty well. I mean, conversations are extremely intuitive for customers to have, whether it's chat or on a phone. We have been having conversations since human beings existed. I mean, in a sense, it's what differentiates us from animals, our ability to have conversations with people. And even chat is a relatively new innovation in the grand scheme of things, but apps like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, SMS are ubiquitous. Everyone has them. Everyone and their grandmother has them. We use it to talk to our friends and our family. So the idea of interacting with your customers over chat is very intuitive for your customers. As soon as you throw them a chat interface, regardless of what the colors are, regardless of what the branding looks like, the basic structure is going to be the same, and they're going to know exactly how to respond. They don't face the same issue that they did with the traditional landing page. Similarly, on the mobile optimization front, I mean, if you think about it, mobile phones were made to have conversations. So in a sense, any form of conversation that you're having, be it on phone, be it over chat, is mobile optimized inherently. I mean, that is literally what phones were invented for, even if we don't have that many conversations on them anymore. And then finally, I think the most important one on engagement, we see that the chat offers a very different way of interacting with your customers. Instead of loading all of the content in one go, instead of saying, hey, here's a bunch of text, here's a form, do with it what you will, hopefully you'll share your contact details, you're actually engaging them in a two-way interaction. You don't ask them for their information with the form right away. You don't give them all of the information about your company right away. You send them a couple of messages, they respond to you, you send them another set of messages. They're constantly getting visual stimulation on the screen as message bubbles pop up. They're constantly kept engaged in the conversation because they have to respond and they have to actually read a short burst of text at a time. And that makes for a much more dynamic, much more fluid, and much more natural mode of interaction with your customers. So we've addressed the three issues that we identified earlier through conversations. So now we do have a happy ending, right? Well, we're close, but we're not fully there yet because conversations are just half of the solution. The issue I mean, conversations as a whole are great, but generally how people did conversations in the past, and one of the issues that we had with them in the past, before digital was a thing, is that they're expensive. Hiring people to have a live chat conversation, hiring people to man a call center, hiring people to man your stores is expensive. You have to invest in HR, you have to actually invest in payroll. And even once you hired them, they are never going to be able to scale with the number of the amount of traffic that digital channels can send your way. Because inevitably you're going to reach a situation where the number of people landing on your page, the number of people who want to have a chat, the number of people who want to have a phone call is going to far outstrip the number of agents you have, and there's going to be a long wait time, and that's going to cause people to drop while they're waiting, which again creates another crack in the journey. Similarly, you can't offer 24/7 support. It's extremely hard. It's extremely expensive. So if someone is interested in having a conversation with you, a customer is interested in having a conversation with you after work hours, what do? That customer is probably going to go cold. They'll go somewhere else, and you've completely lost them again. So while we fixed these other issues of unintuitiveness, lack of mobile optimization, the issues caused by forms and walls of text, we've come up with a new set of issues over here that's causing people to fall through the cracks. So now the question we need to ask ourselves as marketers is, how do we balance to achieve the ultimate solution? How do we balance the effective but expensive human-based approach to lead generation and to selling, where you actually have a human interaction with someone to sell to them, and the self-serve approach, which is unengaging but cheap, which is your landing pages. And the answer to that is chatbots. So we gave you a sneak peek of this earlier, but essentially, to get us all on the same page, a chatbot is a customer service rep that can answer questions that a prospect might have, that can capture the lead information. So any information you capture through a form, a chatbot can capture that through chat. The screenshots, if you were taking a look earlier, a lot of them had that sort of use case in them. They get deployed in, over here, actually, you can see an actual example of a chatbot over here. I didn't actually mean to click on that, but it ends up working out. This is an example of a chatbot in action. So over here, this is a chatbot for a law firm that's offering a free consultation. We can click get a free consultation, and over here it'll collect our lead information. Fairly simple. If we jump back to our slides over here, oh my God, I clicked on the chatbot again. I guess we just have to interact with the chatbot for the rest of this interaction. But that's what a chatbot is, and where it actually gets deployed, because this is a question we often get at TARS, is in all your regular channels. At the end of the day, these chatbots, just like I showed you, are just regular web pages that you can open up in Chrome or whatever browser you're using. So the most popular way that chatbots get deployed across the internet is in a widget. So when you land on someone's page, the tiny little widget that you see in the bottom right corner that says, "Hey, do you want to have a conversation?" That could be a chatbot. You can also deploy it as a conversational landing page. This is, in my opinion, the most unique and the most interesting use case. And essentially what this approach is just like I showed you, these chatbots exist on their own web page. They have their own URL. So essentially what you do is you drop this URL as the post-click experience, as the landing page for your ad campaigns. And what ends up happening is someone clicks on your ad campaign. So they click on your Google ad, they click on your Facebook ad, and instead of being dropped on a regular landing page, they get dropped straight into the conversation with your chatbot. You can think of it kind of like click to call, but with an automated chat agent on the other end. And then the final way that you can interact with customers through a chatbot is on WhatsApp. This is untapped as a channel so far because WhatsApp chatbots are relatively new. But the potential, I don't need to tell you guys, the potential is immeasurable just because so many people today are on WhatsApp, and that's where everyone's anyways hanging out. Now, to synthesize everything that we've spoken about, the reason chatbots are the better option of everything that we spoke about, the landing pages, then the human-based customer interaction approach, is that on the one hand, they maintain the conversational experience that your customers want. So they address all of the issues that existed with our traditional landing pages. And in that sense, they help you increase the number of people that are converting from visitor into lead. But at the same time, they don't have any of the downsides of a human-based approach to something like this. So having a call center or having a live chat system, because you build one chatbot, it can talk to as many people as it wants at one time. So it's relatively cheap. It's also available 24/7 because they don't have to go to sleep. And they can have infinite concurrence, basically means they can have infinite conversations at once. So the end result is you don't have those long wait times. You don't have the lack of availability 24/7. And you've addressed all of the new problems that we created as well. And the end result of this is that you end up getting more people from the visitor stage of this buyer journey to the lead stage, because fewer people are being put off by your boring forms, your walls of text that are unintuitive, unengaging, and not mobile optimized. You're not spending as much on setting up the sort of call centers that you need to address those problems through human beings. So you can reallocate that money to maybe your ad spend or somewhere else in your marketing campaign to drive more visitors to your pages and more of them to leads. You have 24/7 support. So the end result of that is obviously you're not missing out on visitors who land on your page after work hours. So those people are more likely to convert into a lead. And then finally, you don't have wait times either. So folks who get tired waiting in line to speak to an agent and then dropping from your page, you don't have that issue. So those visitors are actually, again, converting from a visitor into a lead. And the end result of all of this together is that we achieve a higher ROI at the top of our funnel by adding a chatbot to our landing page, by even replacing our landing pages altogether with a chatbot as with a conversational landing page. You are increasing the number of people who go from the visitor stage of this journey to the lead stage of this journey. And you're not really breaking the bank to do it as you would with a human-based approach. And the end result, obviously the punchline of this entire webinar is that you increase your ROI. Now I threw this slide in here because this is feedback that I've gotten in the past, where if I make bold claims like this, I need to back them up with proof. So this is actually one of the businesses we worked with at TARS. They operate a chain of hearing clinics across India, and they use chatbots on the landing page for their Google ads, their Facebook ads, and I think they also run text messaging campaigns. That they run text marketing campaigns. And what they saw after adding the chatbot is that the conversion rate actually increased by 50%. So that means without increasing their ad spend, without investing any more time or effort into marketing, just by adding a chatbot widget to their page, they were getting 50% more leads than they were before, which is honestly, it's staggering. I mean, that's really what every marketer is trying to achieve. And on that positive note, I'm going to leave it at that so that we can have maybe a discussion about this, because it's just been me talking over slides for the last 20 odd minutes. And I'm sure that that gets boring after some time. Cool.
Yes, thank you, Arnav. It was really interesting to know more about chatbots being the method way forward for all the businesses to follow this approach. So we do have like a bunch of questions which people have like added. I'll just read one from this is from Subu. Does adding a chatbot widget increase your page load and makes landing page load little more slower? How does tasks come across this issue?
So I've actually spoken to folks on our tech team about this. It really depends on how you deploy the chatbots. And I mean, we've thought about this. There are some chatbot tools out there that do increase your page load time. And that has to do with the way that they load the chatbot on your page. But we found that with our chatbots, because of the way that we've structured it, because of the way that we load them, they don't increase your page load time by a meaningful amount, of time. So that's the short answer to your question.
This is from Shrikant. How about ClickFunnels? Do they also have low conversion rates?
I mean, it really depends on the use case that you're using it for. They again, as with everything, honestly, even if you add a chatbot to your landing page, uh, even if you replace your landing page altogether with a chatbot, it is going to all depend on your at the end of the day, the vast majority of whether you have a high conversion rate or not is going to depend on your implementation. A well-implemented ClickFunnel is definitely going to outperform a badly implemented landing page that has a chatbot or a badly implemented conversational landing page. But in my experience, I have found that a well-implemented conversational landing page, a landing page that has a chatbot on it, or a landing page that is altogether a chatbot, like we saw in the slides, will outperform a regular ClickFunnel. Now, in terms of how ClickFunnels perform versus other landing pages, I mean, I think that they would possibly perform better based on my experience. I mean, ClickFunnels tend to have a much simpler structure in my experience than other landing pages, which I appreciate about them. But yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay. Then there are some questions regarding how page speed, will it affect the page speed? Again, that same question.
So I see one over here that says, what is an unintuitive page? I didn't understand that. We can totally go over that again. I still have my slides open. So let's go back to that slide and tell you what I mean by that. So I mean, we all interact with landing pages on a daily basis. So we might not think of them as being unintuitive because I mean, we interact with web pages every single day. But what I mean by unintuitiveness is, okay, so for example, for this screenshot over here, I looked up one keyword. I looked up, I think it was oil change in my area. And I clicked on the first 3 ads that popped up and I took a screenshot of them and I put them on the slide. Now, each of these landing pages achieve the same outcome. They capture your lead, but they look very different from each other. Now, whether we know it or not, on a subconscious level, it takes us at least a second or two to orient ourselves on the page and figure out where everything is. The first thing that we do when we land on a page is we skim over it to figure out where everything is. Now, when we are skimming over it, we might take in some information, but it's not a meaningful interaction with the customer because they're not really, they're not really engaging with your content in a meaningful way. They're just trying to figure out where everything is. And once that is over, that's when they meaningfully start interacting with your content on the page. Now, what I'm arguing with a conversational landing page or with a chatbot on the page is that sort of offers an escape hatch to your customers, because a chat interface is intuitive in that regardless of what color your message bubbles are, what shape your message bubbles are, as soon as you see a chat interface, you know exactly how to respond, you know exactly how to interact with it. Because we just use chat interfaces so often and they all largely follow the exact same structure. I seem to have lost my chat window over here. Okay, so we have a question over here. How easy is it to configure your landing page as a chatbot on WhatsApp? Good question. So actually using a WhatsApp chatbot as a landing page is only possible on Facebook channels. So if you run Facebook ads or Instagram ads, because WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, I think Instagram ads as well, you can use a WhatsApp chatbot as the post-click experience. It is not hard to do it at all. All you have to do, you essentially have to flip a button in your Facebook ads console on your Facebook ads backend to change it from a landing page to a WhatsApp chatbot or a WhatsApp business account that you might have. It's not very difficult at all. It does not involve any AI. That's just a basic setting that you need to change in your Facebook ads. All right, so we have another question here. Does having a combination of live chat and chatbot provide better ROI on landing page conversions than just a chatbot alone? So this is actually a good question. It really depends on the use case that you are using it for. So I would say if it's a pure play lead generation approach, you don't really need a human agent involved. So I'll give you an example. Because I think examples are the best way to convey this to folks. So over here, I think, where do we have it? Where we were talking about the implementation. Can't seem to find it right now, even though these are my slides. Here we go, at the end. Oh, further down. Yeah, here we go. On this slide over here, this is an example of a customer of ours who, by the way, for the people in the messages who are asking about why we didn't name the webinar about landing pages, this is actually a good example of how you can use a chatbot as a landing page. And the argument over here would be that you can just replace your landing page altogether with a chatbot. So if we wait for the GIF to loop around, what they're doing over here is they have a Google ad for oil change. If you click on the Google ad, you get dropped into a chatbot over here. Now this chatbot functions wholly as it functions wholly as a landing page over here. It completely replaces the landing page. There's no landing page at all. Now it achieves the exact same result. It captures a lead, and it just looks a little bit different. Now, in a situation like this, where you just want to collect a few details, I don't see why you would need a human agent. I don't see why you would need a human agent to collect the information, because if you want to ask for their email, if you want to ask for their car model, you don't really need a human being. Where a human agent plus chatbot approach works really well, I think, is in customer service use cases, pure play customer support, customer service use cases. So in a situation like that, your chatbot will handle about 80% of the queries, the repetitive queries that don't really require any expertise to address. And the human agent will step in the 20% of cases where there is a query that's a little too complex for the chatbot to handle. That generally we see get used primarily in customer support use cases, not in marketing use cases. So in marketing use cases, in lead generation use cases, you're collecting a fairly structured set of responses. You don't really need a human being to step in to get that answered. So we have another question here. Are there any metrics on bounce rate of your chatbot landing page? So I think, I mean, we generally look at, when we implement a chatbot landing page for someone, we haven't really looked at the bounce rate often, because I mean, at the end of the day, our customers are generally happy when they have a higher conversion rate. At the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do as a marketer. You're trying to get more leads or more conversions through your marketing campaigns. I don't anticipate that the bounce rate is much higher, but what we do see on average is about, I mean, on average, we see about a 50% increase in conversion rate when you switch from a traditional landing page to a conversational landing page. We have another great question here. I love this question. What about the lack of graphics and color on a chatbot-based landing page? Is that a downside? That is a fantastic question. So what we have found actually is that, first of all, you can embed images into your chatbot. So this is actually an example of a much plainer chatbot that we have over here. But I mean, for example, if you look at the chatbot on our website, we incorporate a lot of GIFs into it. It's got a purple background and green message bubbles. So you can add an element of, you can add your branding, you can add images to the page, to the chat flow, to make it more visually appealing. And we highly recommend that our customers do it. But I will say, in favor of the chatbot-based landing pages versus a traditional landing pages, the issue with a traditional landing page that I see a lot of, the mistake that I see a lot of marketers make, is that we think more content is better. We have this assumption that if you put more images, if you put more text on the page, if you put more infographics on the page, it's automatically going to make people convert, because you're giving them more information. So obviously they're going to convert. More information equals more conversions, right? But what's actually going on in your prospect's mind, we found, is that they're getting overloaded with information. If you have a wall of text, a stock image of some happy customers, if you have images of testimonials on your page, that's a lot of information to consume for a customer at one go. People are not that good. I mean, obviously we're the only species in the world that can read, but people are not that good at reading where they can consume all of that information in one go. And they usually, what they're going to do in most cases, we tend to think when we build a landing page, that someone's landing here and they're reading every single word that we've typed out. No, they're actually just skimming through the page. They're looking at the images briefly. They are skimming over the text that you give them. They're not actually meaningfully engaging with it. They're not meaningfully reading through the text, paying attention to the images as much as you'd like to think they are. So what the approach that we take with our chatbots is that we actually try to provide as little information as possible in one go. So when someone lands on the page, if you can get your hook right, if you can get those first 3 messages right, add an image in there, maybe make the chat interface look a little better by adding some color to the message bubbles. But if you can get those first 3 messages on point, we found that the rate of people going forward can be extremely high. So that's my 2 cents on the aspect of the visual the visual elements of a page. So chatbots will collect just information, whether it collects a quality lead. So actually, this is an interesting question, because some of our customers actually don't use chatbots to increase their conversion rate. They actually use chatbots to increase their lead quality. So for example, I was actually writing a case study once for this one company that works in the legal services space. And they had a very interesting take on why their chatbots collect better leads. When you're confronted with a form as a prospect, there is no social pressure on you to fill out that form in an honest way. You can fill it out with whatever you want and hit submit, and there's no consequences. With a chatbot, on the other hand, even though it is just an automated piece of software on the other end, the fact that it is framed as a chat conversation, the fact that the fact that it's framed as a chat conversation makes them think there's someone on the other end, and they don't. A lot of people don't want to be rude, so they don't. They either will not share their information with you at all, or they will actually share their actual information with you. So what a lot of our customers have found is that, I mean, the conversion rates do go up, but they don't really care much about the conversion rates. What they found is that chatbots are a great way to weed out the spam leads. So fewer people land on the page and type in a when they're confronted with a form field asking them for their name. They actually give their actual name. That's a observation that we've noticed in a not insignificant number of our customer. Someone's got them on. Let's see if we have some more questions here. By the way, Vimal and Supraja, how are we doing on time? I'm happy to stay here and answer more questions, but I just want to make sure so that we don't take up people's time.
No, we have around 20 more minutes.
Oh, great.
So I think Vimal will also be having a couple of questions, and I think we have a few more questions on the chat box as well. I think we can switch and keep the questions going.
Okay, cool. That works for me. Okay, let's see. We've got a flood of questions over here. Chatbot data will be with website owners or the chatbot company. So, I mean, generally, most chatbot platforms, I have not encountered a chatbot platform that's different from this. The way we handle it at ours, it's pretty much the same at all chatbot platforms, is you get access to the data. So most of these chatbots, because they're just web-based, because they're web pages that you can use, you can integrate them with any of the CRMs that you're using right now, any of the software that you're using right now. So all of this chat data, I mean, in our case, for example, everyone who uses our chatbot for a marketing use case, their lead data automatically gets sent to their CRM from the chatbot. So they have the data accessible to them. Oh, I see my colleague Abhilash over here getting in on the chat. Good for you, Abhilash. Can one have both form and chatbot at the same time on landing page? Yes, actually, a lot of people do have both a form and a chatbot on their landing page. And it actually works out for us really well when our customers have both a form and a chatbot on their landing page, because it puts into stark relief the chatbot performing better than the form. Some of our customers have put a chatbot on their page in addition to their form, and then when we jump into Google Analytics and see and compare the rate at which people are converting through the forms and the chatbot, it's a very good tool for us to go back to the customer and say, hey, look, here's the data. People are 50% more likely to complete the lead generation process through the chatbot than they are through the form. When you're using a landing page to redirect customer to a sale, how do I quantify and capture it? How will I know where to improvise? I'm sorry, I didn't fully understand that question. I don't fully understand what aspect of the interaction you want to quantify. If you could give me some more context, if you're still on this, Siddhant, if you're still on this webinar, you could give me some more context in the chat. I'd be more than happy to answer. We're getting to the end of the chat box questions. Is there a standard rule to ensure that human response to a chatbot submission by a client is not delayed beyond a point? Human response to a chatbot submission by a client is not delayed. I presume, okay, so I don't fully understand this question, but let me try to make sense of it and give you an answer. In a situation where a chatbot is responding to the person, the response is instant, because the chatbot obviously is a piece of software. It can talk to infinite people at once. The response is instant. When the chatbot hands off a conversation to a human being, I mean, that's really gonna depend on your human agent, the workflows that your human agents follow. I mean, if you have an existing, it depends on your team, but if they already have some tactics in place that they use, yeah, I mean, that's really going to, at that point, it's up to your team to decide how they can how quickly they can respond to them. So how do I know if my landing page is successful or not? The metrics we can capture. Good question. So we actually recently did a webinar on this, on the metrics that you can use to assess whether your chatbot is successful or not, particularly in a marketing context. The metric that we like to look at in our chatbots is conversion rate. And the way we measure that is how many people reach the point in the chatbot where they share their contact details. How many people shared their phone number in this chat conversation across all of the interactions that the chatbot has had, or how many people have shared their email. And then we compare that to the number of conversations that the chatbot had in total. And that gives us that's essentially a basic conversion rate metric, the same way you would measure it for a form or your regular landing page. How the landing page works on email lead generation, how to increase click rate in email campaigns. Good question. If I knew how to increase click rate in email campaigns, I would be rich. I think that's a question that like every single marketer out there is trying to answer. I mean, increasing click rate in an email campaign, it's honestly an art. Like, you need to figure out how to give people the right incentive to click on your email campaign, on the link in your email campaign to open it up and land on your page, or to even just open up the email in the first place. I mean, this is something we've been trying to figure out at ours as well. If I had the silver bullet to answer this, honestly, I'd be living in a mansion right now, and I'm not. I mean, there's a punching bag behind me, so that shows you how small my apartment is. So how does the landing page work in email lead generation? I mean, it can. The beauty of these chatbots, as I showed you before, is that they just live on regular links. They are, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they are just landing pages that look and feel like a chat interface. I mean, if you think about it, you could just take your existing, we used to do this in the past. If you go back to the TARS blog and you go back a few pages, we used to do this where we take an existing landing page and convert it into a conversational landing page like this one. So if you're interested in seeing that, check out the TARS blog. But essentially, the way to think about this is you're just reorganizing the information on your existing landing page as a chat conversation. And when you think about it like that, you realize that these chatbots, this link can be shared wherever your existing landing page is being shared. So if you're sharing a link to your landing page in your email marketing campaigns, go ahead and share a link to your conversational landing page as well. It'll work just the same. It'll probably convert better. You'll have to compare them, obviously, but I'm willing to bet that it'll convert better. And yeah, that is how it would work. Creating it for B2b lead generation. Interesting. So you want to use it in your B2b lead generation when you send out emails. So one use case that, I mean, we're a B2B company, obviously. One place where we use our chatbots in our own marketing processes when we're doing lead generation or we're prospecting for example, people to collaborate with on webinars, is we send a link of our chatbot to help people book demos with us. So you can integrate a chatbot like this with a something like Google Calendar, and then it pulls up a calendar over here for people to pick a free slot to talk to you with. But I think we've exhausted all of the questions from the chat box over here. Vimal, as I understand it, you had some. Oh, okay. Here we go. Okay, so now we have questions from the expert himself, from Vimal. Can we have a different chatbot flow for revisiting customers? You can, actually, you can. So, I mean, the way these chatbots work on the back end is that they are just a flowchart. So let me go ahead and switch to the back end of this chatbot. And the way you can use these chatbots as a flowchart, maybe I should have done this earlier. Stop sharing my screen, but it's fine. I mean, you guys got to see some of the slides. But the way these chatbots work on the back end is they're just a flowchart. So when in the flowchart, essentially what you can do at the top is you can have a condition where it says, where it checks to see whether the person is a visiting person who's come back to your page, and then send them in one direction in the conversation. And if they haven't, if they're a new customer, if they're not a recurring visitor, you can send them in a different direction on your page. I don't know why, but I found my Google Chrome lags every single time I share my screen on Zoom. But yeah, for example, over here, you can have a condition where if they are a visiting customer, you send them down this path in the conversation. And then if they are a new customer, you send them down this path in the conversation and they filter through.
Okay.
Cool. We have another question here. What are the mandatory info to be included in a landing page? Good question. I mean, the way I like to think about it on a conversational landing page, we actually have created some content about this. When someone lands on your conversational landing page, this sort of relates to the questions that people were asking earlier about images. So when someone lands on your page, they generally, I mean, they're looking for a few things. And those things don't change whether it's a conversational landing page or a regular landing page. The couple of things that you really want to add are, one, a piece of branding that indicates that you are the company that you say you are. So for example, adding your logo, something as simple as adding your logo in the first couple of messages of the conversational landing page is a great thing to add, or adding it in the background of your chat. So for example, in the slides that I was showing you in the conversational landing page, the garage that was running those ads and had the conversational landing page, their logo was in the background. The reason I think that you should add that is because if someone lands on the page and all you have is text, you don't have any branding from your company, the company colors aren't there, the company logo isn't there. We take it for granted when we see it on the page because it's there on every single page. But if that is not there, then the page kind of looks a little bit untrustworthy and a little bit spammy. And as a prospect, I mean, if I was a prospect in that situation, I might be like, okay, I don't know if this is a legit page. I'm gonna get off and click on another link. Another thing that you probably want to add is a value proposition. So, I mean, in most regular landing pages, this is the basic heading that you have in your first fold, in your hero fold, just capturing what value proposition you're adding. You can add that as a message in your chatbot landing page. And then the third thing that I would say you absolutely need in the first fold, or in the first three messages of your chatbot, is a CTA. You need some form of CTA so that people know how to proceed the interaction. I can't tell you the number of landing pages. When we make these chatbots, sometimes we do research to see what other landing pages out there are doing. And I can't tell you the number of landing pages I've landed on where the CTA is buried down in like fold 3 or fold 4. And I mean, honestly, if I was a prospect who didn't have that much attention, I mean, I have a very short attention span myself, but if I had, I mean, honestly, if I had a shorter attention span than I did, if I wasn't doing it for work, I wouldn't pay that landing page much attention just because the CTA is buried in the folds. And I don't want to have to do a scavenger hunt to look for the CTA. I want to know immediately how to continue the interaction. How can chatbots be used for retention marketing and not just acquisition? Is there a case study available? Fantastic question. I don't think we have a case study about that. That being said, I'll get right on it after this webinar. I'll start writing the case study right now because I know that there are folks out there who have used chatbots. Maybe someone from my team who's watching this webinar can correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't have a case study about it right now. How chatbots can be used in your retention marketing is actually, come to think of it, we just recently hosted a webinar about a use case that sort of gets at this. We spoke about quiz chatbots and how you can administer quizzes through chatbots. That is actually a great way to retain your existing customers or to re-engage people who are already in your list. So what some of our customers do is they'll administer a quiz or a test through a chatbot, a certification test through a chatbot, and then they'll send that out to their existing list. And then people who interact with that quiz can be re-engaged. So if they interact with the quiz and they yeah, over here, someone from my team just shared the research, the quiz chatbots. But if they interact with that quiz, you can turn that into a lead capture channel, or you can use it as a way to distribute coupons to drive further sales in the future. I know there are a couple of actually pretty big consumer brands in India. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share their names, have used our chatbots for that exact purpose. But yeah.
Any more questions, guys?
Vimal, I think you can go ahead and put down your questions as well. I think I assume you also have a few.
Yeah, my whatever questions which I wanted to ask, like people did ask that.
Sure, sure.
One question, like I think most of them might want to know about the SEO factor. Will using a chatbot or like chatbot landing pages or campaign chatbots, like will it affect the SEO, the ranking and stuff like that among the other landing pages, the normal landing pages?
Good question. So, I mean, in our experience, most people, when they have a landing page, are using it on the paid campaigns. So the SEO score doesn't get affected as much. The question that we often get, though, is does it affect the page quality, which is definitely a factor that like any paid platform factors in. And we found that it does not affect the quality score of your pages. I mean, we've had folks who've used our chatbots for ad campaigns where they're competing with other people and they consistently are the top ad with obviously lower cost per lead because they're capturing more leads through the chatbot than they were through their existing landing page. In terms of SEO, I mean, we use chatbots on our. If you're using chatbots on your organic pages where you're driving organic traffic, I don't think that it does affect your SEO score. And the reason I say that is because one of our big marketing channels at ours is we have a massive chatbot template library. It's about 950 plus free chatbot templates. Subtle plug to all the people watching right now. But those pages, I mean, the way we drive traffic to them is through SEO, and every single one of those pages has a chatbot embedded in them. So if you look up something like hospital virtual assistant chatbot, we have a listing page for that. It has a chatbot embedded in it, and it's been ranking pretty well for us. So I don't think that the chatbot is affecting. I don't think the chatbot is affecting the SEO score very much.
Any more questions? If not, then we can like try closing this webinar. Like last 2 minutes, we'll wait for 2 minutes, and then if not,
Awesome. I've got to say, of all the webinars I've ever done, this is the webinar where we've definitely got where I've definitely got the most questions. You guys have been an extremely engaged audience. I appreciate that.
okay. So yeah, I think it was really informative, and apparently, like we came to know like what about the usage of chatbot campaign, chatbots, and the other chatbots, like how it will improvise our lead generation. So yes, it was amazing. So guys, first of all, I need to thank Arnav for like taking his time and preparing the slides. It was an amazing slides, interactive, quite interactive, and yes, it really helped to get the information out there without boring everyone. So thank you, Arnav.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and thank you guys for attending the seminar, the webinar, and like those who have missed or those who have by mistake not followed, you can always check the webinar on the YouTube link. And so Praja, you can just send back the feedback form, like those who are like available online will help to
Yes.
understand.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us. I think it would be really great if you guys could fill the feedback form. We would obviously have it, take a look into it, and we'll make sure we improve whatever is there, whatever is not missing in this webinar. We'll make sure we will give it to you in the next webinar, because we are trying to do a lot of webinars in the coming months. And also all the past webinars will be seen on our YouTube channel. There are some exciting topics that we have covered so far during the 8 to 9 months. So I think both the links are there on the chat box. And again, thank you so much, Arnav and Vimal, for taking the time out. I think, I mean, to sum up with Arnav, I think this was the highest count also as of now that we see on a webinar. I think it was a great success. So thanks to the both of you. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Thank you. And thanks, everyone.